Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel and thanks for joining me again. This week we're going to get down and dirty with some swampy juke joint blues. This lead study is going to look at ways to make your blues playing that little bit more raw, a little bit more nasty, a bit more authentic and mojo filled. There's a lot of different shades of the blues being explored here, everything from the old Mississippi Delta blues to the early Chicago blues to jump blues, rockabilly, country blues, from players like Junior Kimborough to Junior Watson, and from Hubert Sumlin to Marc Ribot. And we want to deliver all of this with the casual swagger of a Keith Richards or a Billy Gibbons. No big deal, right? It also covers the topic of how to jam over just a single chord rather than a moving chord progression, and how to come up with ideas that sound interesting as we play around in that grey area between major and minor tonality. Similar to my Motown lesson, for this one I haven't made my own backing track, but I'm using a really good one by the Tele brothers that's available to download at the link in the description. Their backing tracks are some of my favourites because of how authentic they are. They've really got that vintage flavour down. It's a groove on a G chord, and it's kind of ambiguous in that it doesn't really commit fully to major or minor. It's kind of tilted towards the minor side, I guess, because there's a B flat in the bass line. Just before we dive in, it's worth checking out my Chicago Blues lesson if you haven't seen that one already. I'm going to link to that in the description. Oh, and also remember to get hold of the lesson materials while you're there. They contain absolutely everything you could need to follow along with this. Tab and notation in PDF and Guitar Pro formats. In the Guitar Pro format, I've included the audio file of my performance, so it plays along with the tab itself, so you can loop sections, slow them down, and all that good stuff. Okay, so our first phrase, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. G minor pentatonic, essentially. 10 on the top E, 11 on the B. Bend the B slightly as you play the two together. Pick the root twice, go back to your minor third, give it another little bend, and then one of these little upstroke with a quick pull off, landing on a downstroke on the next string. Kind of like a reverse rake, I guess. So already you can see that there's this ambiguity here, right, where you've got the minor third, but you're bending it towards the major third. And that's going to continue on throughout this piece. Then on to our next phrase, 1, 2, 3. Again, that's all really just the G minor pentatonic or the G blues scale. We're starting with a double stop with the root on the top string and the flattened fifth, or the blues note, on the 14th fret of the B string. Hit them together, hit them hard, hammer on to the natural fifth. These things sound extra spicy and aggressive, and they really wake you playing up and give it that vintage rawness that we're looking for. Go back the way you came, and a little bit of a trill from 13 to 14 and back. Playing around within shape 5 of our scale there. Finishing off with that little slide from the blues note, and then a bend again on the minor third, tilting it towards the major third, come down to the root. Now our next phrase, again, there's going to be a lot of minor to major third action going on. We play this, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're starting on the 10th fret of the low E string with the third finger, then we go on to the A string, 8, then 10. This would be a chunk of our shape 3 G minor blues scale. In relation to the G chord, we've got the 5th, the flat 7, and the root, and then we slide in, again, minor to major third. So now we've left our blues scale and our minor pentatonic, and we're tilting more towards the major tonality here. And we go chromatically with a couple of these little semitone slides. Notice how I pick nearer the bridge there for that more bright T-Bone Walker kind of tone as well. Then we come back down again, that slide we had earlier, but it's in this position this time. Sliding from the flat 5, then coming down the scale to the root. And then we go down to the bass and grab the 5th, slide minor to major third. So we're seeing like a G major triad there, and approaching that major third from a semitone below, as is typical with the blues. Then grab the root on the G string. Then do one of these late pull-offs to the flat 7, give it a little bend down, and then kill the string. So we get that cut off at the peak of the bend. This next phrase is one of my favourite licks, maybe one that I overuse, but it's hard not to overuse it when it sounds as cool as this. Can be a little tricky, especially when you're crammed into this top end of the fretboard. We're really thinking shape 1 of the G blues scale, and we're barring the top 2 strings at the 15th fret. Get your 3rd finger and reach over to the 18th fret of the G string. Hybrid pick all 3 of those top strings together, and then slide up a semitone on the G string. So that's taking you from your blues note, your flatted 5th, to the 5th, and then come down the minor pentatonic. Again, I'm hybrid picking there at that point in the phrase, and then coming down the scale to the root, and then going back on the top 3 strings, barring the 15th fret, hybrid pick them together, hammer on to the major 3rd. So again, that grey area, minor to major, constantly, a big feature of the blues. And what I do in this case is I do a little trill, and then we do one of these reverse rake things that we spoke about a lot in the Chicago blues lesson. Now visualize this G major triad, string set 3, 2nd inversion, because it's got the 5th in the bass. We've already got that 16 courtesy of this trill we've just done. Then we want to play 17, 17, D string to A string, but we reverse rake to get those. And then we slide fast to the 15th fret of the A string. Play it again, then go to your major 3rd, and then grab the root, G. Give it some good vibrato. For this next phrase, we're thinking more major than minor, really. We grab the 5th, then the 6th, which in blues we associate more with a major kind of tonality, then the root, and then we're bending the 9, or the 2nd degree of the scale, at the 10th fret of the B string. Give it a half bend. Dig in hard with all of these notes. And just come down a G7 arpeggio once you've released the bend. Root, flat 7, 5th. And instead of going to the major 3rd, we're going to grab the minor 3rd, give it 2 bends towards the major 3rd, but never quite make it. That's all part of the rawness of this. You don't want it to be too perfect. So make some of your bends a little shallow on purpose. Then grab the root. 1, 2, 3. So many of these grey areas in the blues, isn't there? Because you've got the minor to the major 3rd thing going on, but you've also got a lot of dominant chords which have a minor 7th in them when you think about it, but the major 3rd in there too. There's a lot of grey area to play around with, which is why we can be so expressive with it and keep things sounding fresh. And then we're going for another one of those angular train whistle kind of licks. The first one we had was the one that kicked off the solo here. This time we're going down here for this. I think that sounds so cool. It's a bit of a rockabilly thing. Charlie Christian used to use that one a lot as well. You know, you'd be playing over a G chord, just grab that double stop, give the B string a little bend. Pretty killer. And those 2 intervals, little tritone interval, really they sort of symbolize a C7, I guess, more than anything. Even though we're not playing over a C7, we're playing over the G. This little run that we use to get into it, I've always remembered this shape. I think it's really useful. It's like a C9 chord. Again, thinking C9 but playing it over a G chord. This would be the 9th, the 3rd, and the flat 7 of the C9. Interesting little thing, just a quick side note. Move it up a few frets, flip these 2 strings over, and you've got another voicing for C9. Guys like Bill Jennings used to use that kind of trick quite a bit. So back to our phrase, we play this, 1, 2, 3. And then we do another thing that I really like to use that I picked up from listening to Bill Jennings, play the 1 diminished to build a bit of tension over a static chord. So in this case the G diminished, built off the D string position, give that 1 hit, move the entire chord down a semitone and lose strings D and B to get this little double stop. Make sure you're killing as many of the other strings as possible, especially this B string here. So you're only hearing frets 5 of the G and E string, and then 3rd fret barred on the top 3 strings, firmly back in your G minor pentatonic kind of territory. And then just come down the G minor pentatonic. And do this little double stop on strings D and G. Another little trill. Then continue on down the minor pentatonic. And then we grab the blues note, the flatted fifth, but we also grab the open G string via some more hybrid picking. Slide to the 3rd fret. That's a really cool sound. It adds that swampy country blues vibe to it. And then similar thing on the B flat. So 1st fret of the A string along with the open G. And then resolve down to G while that top note continues to ring. Now remember that I do have a Patreon where for a very small monthly fee you get access to all of my lesson materials. That includes backing tracks, tabs and notation in Guitar Pro and PDF formats, and tons of bonus stuff as well. Or you can make a one-off purchase at the Gumroad link if it's only this lesson that you're interested in. Either way, your support allows me to keep making these videos, and I really do thank you for that. Okay, now on to the final solo. This starts off with a bit more bluegrass in flavour. We're going to slide minor to major 3rd on the A string, grab the open D, then the 2nd fret of the D, and then the open G. Classic country bluegrass lick. Then grab the flat 7, go back to the root, let those notes collide. A little bit of neck vibrato also helps make it sound that little bit more off kilter. Then this really nice little trick that again is very bluegrassy or kind of ragtimey sounding. Minor 3rd of G on the G string 3rd fret. Grab the major 3rd on the open B, and again let the 2 notes collide. So we're playing around in that nice little dissonant zone there, minor to major 3rd and back. Bit of a bend, flat 7, good collection of notes. It's got a bit of that Kurt Cobain vibe. Throwing everything in on this to make it sound nasty. Then we play a Tony Rice quote. I've always loved that phrase. Let the open G string ring again. Think about that there. It's just a G minor pentatonic, but again with that bend towards the major 3rd. Now the next trick is very similar to this one we did up here that I said I used too much. This time we're down in the lower octave, and instead of going, we're going to change things up a little bit. Grab the 6th fret of the G string with your little finger, bar the top 2 strings at the 3rd fret again, and hybrid pick, do one of these banjo rolls. So all you're doing is going plectrum, 2nd finger, 3rd finger. It's good to practice those. Then we come down the scale. Very quick little subtle quarter bend on the minor 3rd again. Then we leave a space and repeat the idea again. And add that to it. So hammering on from 3 to 5 on the D string while allowing the open G string to ring. And again, I'm hybrid picking, plectrum, 2nd finger. So I'm just going to play that chunk that began with the Tony Rice lick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That little bit of space just lets the groove really bounce. Now we've just played this, and to finish off we're going to come down the G blues scale basically. We're going to do an upstroke to catch the open G and the 3rd fret of the D, then the 5th fret of the A string with a downstroke, then hybrid pick again, the 4th fret of the A string and the open G string, using my 2nd finger on the left hand as well to fret that, and then pull off to the 3rd fret, move down to the 1st fret, pick the same 2 strings again, and then finish on the root. One, 2, 3, 4, 1. And that's it for the lead study. Now let's talk a little bit about tone and playing style. So first off, again, don't play this too polite and too clean. We want to hit the strings quite hard, play with some real conviction. Imagine you've just escaped from prison and you're on the run and someone throws a guitar your way while you're in a croc-infested swamp somewhere in Louisiana. Hit those strings like your life really depends on it. Make those bends sound like guttural screams in the dark woods at night. Get nasty with this stuff. Sick of hearing polite blues all the time. I mean, come on, let's get our hands dirty here. As far as gear choices go, I'd say one of the more important things is using a fairly hefty pick. This is a Dunlop H3, which I think is a 1.2 mil, something like that. It's the same size as a Jazz 3, which I can't see lying around here, but you have to take my word for it. Oh no, here we go. But it feels a little stiffer, so you can really dig in harder. And as someone who likes to use a lot of rest strokes, that's really useful, when you've got a hefty pick that doesn't buckle and bend. As far as string gauge go, these are pretty regular really, I mean literally regular, gauge 10 to 46, pyramid strings, maximum performance they're called. They feel really nice under the fingers, and I feel like they're a little more mellow than some strings. This guitar is my brand new Nachocaster, which I'm so over the moon with. This was a dream guitar for me, and it arrived about a month ago, and I've played it every day since. It's got my date of birth stamped into the bridge plate there. It's fully custom spec'd out, and it just feels so good to play. It's so lightweight, so resonant, so lively. You only have to breathe on the strings to get something to happen on this guitar. The pickups are the original Nacho pickups as well, and they sound incredible. I'm on the bridge pickup here, and I've got my tone rolled back probably about halfway on the recording. I might have had it a little higher in the lesson there, but on the performance at the start, my tone is rolled back about half to give a bit more of that dull sort of percussive edge. Here it is all the way up. A bit more brittle. Roll it back just till you lose that top sparkle. Kind of inspires you to play nearer the bridge as well. I've got a bit of light overdrive on this. I'm actually using my old Analog Man King of Tone, which I haven't used for years. I was thinking of selling it, but I think I'll hold on to it. Sounds amazing. I'm using the red side of that with the gain very low, probably about noon, and the volume just pushed a little bit, about 2 o'clock. Tone up in the middle. And I'm plugged into the amp I've been using most recently, which is the Emprise Falcon, which is a clone of a vintage deluxe reverb, which, as you know, is my main amp of choice, my original 69 Drip Edge Deluxe. This amp sounds just the same. It's amazing, but it's obviously not as fragile, and I can gig with it without worrying so much. But I've got the amp set dead clean, so all the drive you're hearing is from the King of Tone. Now, a huge part of getting tones that are sort of authentic and stylized is to have heard a lot of that kind of playing. So I'd really recommend listening to a lot of proper old school blues, and more modern stuff like Junior Kimborough as well, and Junior Watson, great modern jump blues player. His tone is exactly the kind of thing I'm going for here. Of course, Marc Ribot as well, because there's always a bit of that lurking in there somewhere. I mean, check out his playing on Make It Rain, for example, really good blues guitar playing, or on Lie to Me, both songs by Tom Waits. And again, try and play with a bit of that casual swagger of a man like Keith Richards. Listen to the Exile on Main Street record or the Sticky Fingers album. Try and get a bit of that slow, lilting groove in your playing. And also listen to a bit of Howlin' Wolf and some R.L. Burnside. So, thanks for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this lesson. If you did, please do leave a comment down below and hit that like button. And make sure you're subscribed as well. That really does help my channel. So, all things being well, I'll see you guys at the same time and place next week. Alright, cheers.